I built a full stack app for my hackathon project. It worked, it looked good, and I was actually proud of it. Then I had to do the demo. And that was when I realized I could only talk about how the app looked like. I had no idea of what was happening behind it. I didn't feel like a fraud, and I genuinely did not think that it was a problem till that moment. So I deleted everything and rebuilt it from scratch. Here's what happened. I'd used AI to build the first version of the app, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but the way I did it was get the code, see that it was working, and move on. I could see the front end, the buttons worked, the data showed up. In my head, I'd built something. But during the demo, someone asked me a question: what happened when the user logged in, how the data was being protected, and I had nothing. Not because I was nervous, but because I genuinely did not know. And that's the thing that nobody tells you about vibe coding. It's not that the code is wrong. It's that the understanding is missing. And missing understanding as a way of showing up at the worst possible moments. So I made a decision. I was going to rebuild interntrack-pro line by line. And this time, I wasn't moving past anything I couldn't explain. This is interntrack-pro. It is an internship application tracker, and I built it because I genuinely needed it. As a computer science student making applications for internships, I was managing my applications across random notes and spreadsheets that I honestly hated opening. I was losing track of everything, not knowing who had responded to me, what next I was meant to do, and who I was still waiting for feedback from. This app solves that one problem. Every application in one single place with its current status and the next thing that you need to do. The stack: React and TypeScript on the front end, deployed on Vercel, and Express API with PostgreSQL, deployed on Railway, with Prisma as the database layer. But the stack isn't the only interesting part. The interesting part was that I actually had to understand what I was building so as to rebuild it properly. The feature that gave me the most problem in the rebuild, and the one that I'm definitely proud that I understand now, is the authentication. In the first version, the auth just worked. I didn't know why. I could not explain what a JWT was. I didn't understand what a bcrypt was doing. And when cause errors appeared, I just kept on changing things until they stopped. This time, I wanted to be able to explain every single step. When you register, your password never gets stored as what you typed in. This is because bcrypt runs it through an hashing function, which is 2 to the power of 10 computation rounds. And so what gets saved in the database is a completely unrecognizable string. If the database was ever leaked, your actual password would still be safe. Once you are logged in, the server creates a JWT token. That's a JSON Web Token. I think of it like a signed wristband at an event. It contains your user ID and it's signed with a secret key that only your server knows, and it's valid for just 7 days. And anytime you do anything in the app, the browser sends that wristband with your request. Then the server checks the wristband each time to ensure that it is valid before going on to fulfill that request. Let me show you what happens without it. If I ask to go to my dashboard from my browser and I click enter, I'll automatically get redirected to the login page because my signed wristband is missing. So my request is not valid for the server to fulfill. So, no wristband, no access. But here's the part that I found most important, a part that I genuinely did not know before. Every time you fetch your application, there is the user ID. The user ID is the one that determines the data that you see. And this user ID comes exclusively from the verified JWT token. Like I said earlier, the JSON Web Token, not from the form field and definitely not from the URL. This one decision means that even if someone else knows a user application's ID, they still would not be able to access their data because the server needs to check their token first. In the first version, I had code doing this and I did not understand why it was. But in the rebuild, I wrote down that line and I understood exactly what it was protecting against. That's a different feeling entirely. Let's take a quick look at the rest. To add application, you add your company name, role, and your status, and you click add application. What happened is that request hits the API, writes it into the database, and then this application card appears automatically on our dashboard. I changed the application status from applied to interview. And you'll notice that the color changes immediately, even before the server responds. That's called optimistic UI. It involves updating the display immediately so that using the app feels fast, and then confirming with the server in the background. Right at the top here, these are the stats card. They update live by pulling data from the database, total applications, response rates, and interviews secured. One small decision that I made that I don't usually see in templates was renaming the deadline field to next action date. My thoughts behind this was that after you've made your application, the closing date no longer matters, and the next thing that mattered was when is the interview, if you proceed to the next stage, or when do you need to follow up. Doing this meant that this one field changes as the application proceeds. One field for every stage of the application. It seems quite small, but it's a decision that I made because I understood the problem I was solving. And that's different from just copying a schema. Here's what the rebuild taught me, and it's not a technical thing. The first version worked. This version also works. The code does roughly the same things, but the difference now is understanding. I can sit in front of anyone, a lecturer, an interviewer, or even a developer, and walk through every decision I made in the app. Why bcrypt? Why JWT? Why the user ID comes from the token and not the form? Why each middleware runs in that specific order? I couldn't do any of that before, and I didn't even know I couldn't, and that's the most uncomfortable part. If you're using AI to help you build things, that's not the problem. I still use it constantly. But there's a difference between using AI to write your code and using AI to help you understand your code. One gives you a project and the other gives you a skill. The demo will always come. The interview will always come. And when it does, working code is not enough. I'm building in public as a CS student. The projects, the rebuilds, the things that break, and where all of it is going. Subscribe if you want to follow along, and drop a comment. Have you ever built something but couldn't explain how it worked? I think more people have been there than would admit.